Hey Queens, so today I have what for me is a really big book unhaul, but for YouTube standards, quite a small book unhaul. But you know, we're taking baby steps. This is the second time I've ever unhauled books, and the first time was literally as I was rearranging these shelves, picking out the books like that I knew off the top of my head I wanted to unhaul. I didn't actually think about. I didn't go through all my books and think, do I want to keep this, do I not? So that is what I have done this time, and I probably could do with unhauling more than this. I think the total number is something like 35 or something like that. You know, it is what it is. It's better than nothing, so I'll take that. So the first book I'm unhauling is Barry Trotter and the Shameless Parody. I got this in a market in London somewhere for apparently £4. I thought I'd paid 50p or something for this. Who knows? But I'm not gonna read it. I've had this for years and I've not even thought about picking it up, so bye. Next I have this special edition of One of Us is Lying. I've read One of Us is Lying, I really enjoyed it. I've read the sequel. I think the only Karen M. McManus book I've not read is the third book in this series and The Cousins, and I really enjoy all her mysteries. I just don't need a second copy, and at the time when I first read it, it was one of my favourite books ever. It's not anymore. I don't need a second copy, and I don't really like this copy. I don't know why I bought it, to be honest. Correction, I have 2 copies excluding this. I don't need a third copy. Next is Right Where I Left You by Julian Winters. This is a YA romance, I think. Yeah, YA male romance. I have just decided I need to be a lot more picky with what YA, particularly romance, I'm picking up, because I've noticed the last couple I've tried, it feels really, not cringy, but yeah, reading about 15, 16-year-olds finding their first loves. It's cute and it can be done in a way that as an adult you can enjoy it, but I've just realised I need to be a lot more picky with them. Next is Opposite of Always by Justin A. Reynolds, and kind of the same thing. Someone said that the idea of this was quite nice but the execution wasn't great, so I don't really want to waste my time on it. I'm sure there's plenty of people that could enjoy this. Next is The Nobleman's Guide to Scandal and Shipwrecks by Mackenzie Lee. This is the third in the Gentleman's Guide to Vice and Virtue, whatever it's called, series. This is the only book I own in that series, and I just can't see myself buying even the first one anytime soon, never mind reading it. And I literally bought this because it was Waterstone's 50% off Boxing Day deals, and I was like, oh, I've heard really great things about this series, but it's not been talked about in years. I can't see myself picking it up anytime soon. It's a chonker, and this is the third book in the series, and it's the first book that I can't even see myself picking up anytime soon. Next, I have 2 copies of the same book, and that is How to Kill Your Family by Bella Mackie. I have 2 copies because I bought this first and then I found this and I thought it was really pretty. It's matte black and then pink sprayed edges, and I thought it was really interesting. But again, it's been multiple years, I think, and I've not read it, and in that time I've seen more and more people read it and not enjoy it, so I'll be getting rid of that. Also, the copy that I prefer is damaged. So next up is The Book of Night by Holly Black. This is another one that I bought because it was pretty and I'd heard some things about it. No, it wasn't even because I'd heard some things about it, because I've heard no good things about this book. It was because it was by Holly Black and I knew that author and it was pretty. Next I have Black Book by Matteo Ascaripour. This again is one I saw on a whim and thought looked interesting, and I picked it up because it was signed. This is a big habit of mine, picking up special editions or signed editions, even if I'm not super interested in the book, because I'm kind of interested and it's special in some way. And if I decide later down the line I want to read it, I won't be able to get this special edition or this signed edition. But I really need to stop. No matter how many times I read the synopsis of this book, I can't remember what it's about. And I've not heard it talked about, which obviously isn't necessarily a sign of whether it's good or not, but that on top of the fact that I can never remember what it's about. Like, I literally read the synopsis whilst I was going through books to Unhaul 2 weeks ago, and nothing. Next is The Key in the Lock by Beth Underdown. This is another one that I picked up on a whim because I thought the cover was pretty and was vaguely interested in the synopsis when I read it, but the synopsis goes straight out of my head. Couldn't tell you the slightest thing. And I reread the synopsis going through books to Unhaul, and I just wasn't that interested. I've got plenty of other mysteries and thrillers that I'm actively excited about, so this is going. Next I have The Roommate Situation by Katie Bailey. This is one I got purely because I like the idea of, like, I like the plot point of sort of the forced proximity roommates in romance, and I didn't really think much more about it. But again, when I was going through books, I was thinking, like, that's the only thing that is intriguing me about this book. The fact that it's brother's best friend and it's roommates. But I can't, like, if I picked up every single book that was a trope I would like, I would own pretty much every book ever. Like, I can't physically go through every single book that's a trope I like. Nothing else stands out about this when I read the synopsis. I don't even think the reviews were amazing when I was looking on Goodreads. I've got so many other books to read. Like, that's the big reason I did this unhaul, is because my physical TBR is ridiculously long and I need to unhaul some because I'm just not going to get to all of them. And yeah, again, this is one I think I've had this for like 3 years and I've not been the slightest bit drawn to it. Next is Scattered Showers by Rainbow Rowell. This is a short story collection that I purely picked up, again, in the Waterstones Boxing Day sales because it was 50% off and Rainbow Rowell is a popular author. I haven't read a single Rainbow Rowell book. I have Fangirl. Or did I get rid of Fangirl? I think I unhauled Fangirl. I don't know. I've never read a single book by this author. And I don't really know why I felt compelled to buy this. If I am going to read anything by this author, it's going to be one of the popular books, because that's what I'm more likely to find interesting. Because again, oh, the text is red. How strange. Like, the text, I don't know if you can see that. The text is red. Next book is So Happy For You by Celia Lasky. This I bought because it was Katie Colson's book club pick for the month and it sounded intriguing, but I didn't pick it up that month. It's been a good year since, and I'm just not interested, and I've actually heard some negative reviews for this, Katie being one of them. We're on to the last of the hardbacks, and this is A Slow Fire Burning by Paula Hawkins. Again, bought this because Paula Hawkins is a popular author and it adds sprayed edge, but considering how popular she is, I've heard nothing about this and the plot doesn't really intrigue me at all. Next we have Lost in a Book by Jennifer Donnelly, and this is a Beauty and the Beast retelling. My mum bought me this years and years ago, and I actually started it and I got to page 98, which is chapter 16, and I can tell you that because the bookmark has been in here so long that you can like feel, like, I don't know if you can see there's a gap there. That's where the bookmark was, like that, because that bookmark has been in there so long because I never took it out because I was like, I'm gonna carry on. I'm not. There are better retellings. I do love Beauty and the Beast, but there are better retellings. what I do remember from reading this is it felt very much like, you know, the random spin-off films that they make, and that's not really what I want. If I'm gonna have a retelling, I want like an interesting retelling, not the 30-minute short film that was released straight to DVD. And that's nothing against this author, and nothing. It was obviously written for that purpose. It just isn't interesting to me. Next is Queenie by Candice Carty-Williams. This is another one where I just keep on forgetting what the plot is, and if I can't remember the vaguest detail of the plot, I feel like I'm saying this so many times, but for a lot of these this is true. If I can't remember the vaguest detail of the plot, I'm not going to reach for it. Next is Commercia of the Caribbean by Alex Wheatle. Same thing, and I'm also pretty sure this is YA. So I can't remember the synopsis, and it's YA. I'm pretty sure about that. If it's not, oops, but I'm pretty sure it is. And I think someone else could just enjoy this more than me. Next is Five Little Liars by Amanda K. Morgan. This is meant to be great for fans of Karen and McManus. Also, I feel like the title is trying to grab Pretty Little Liars fans as well. And again, it's a YA mystery that doesn't sound that intriguing anymore to me. Next is Booked on a Feeling by JC Lee. I went through a phase of like adding every like romance that I could find that was related to books to my TBR, and this is one of the ones that I bought during that time, and it just sounds very generic, and there's just so many more books that I'm excited for. Then I have Burn For You by J.T. Geisinger. This again is just a romance that sounds very generic for the genre that it is. It's like her boss or something. Her boss like offers her a deal, I think, or something like that. Again, one that I can't really remember the synopsis for, so I'm not drawn to it, and when I do read the synopsis it just kind of sounds generic. I would like to make the quick disclaimer that when I'm calling things generic, that's not necessarily a bad thing. Like, if you enjoy that book, great. It's just not calling out to me. There's nothing sticking out that makes me specifically want to read that book. When I say generic, I don't mean that it's like bad because it's unoriginal. I've not read it. Like, I can't comment on that. It just means that it's not calling out to me. It feels very samey. The next book is actually one I've read, and that is By Any Other Name by Lauren Kate. I felt like this book could have been longer. Like, it's quite a short book. It's 274 pages, and the idea was great, but I think we needed a bit more before the story to set up this online relationship that they had. This is between an editor and an author, and the author is a male romance author who uses a pen name, and that pen name is gender neutral. So I don't know if they actively say he's a woman or whether it's just that the pen name is gender neutral so people assume it's a woman, but obviously that helps sales. He's a romance author. She is his editor's assistant or something like that, like assistant editor, not like personal assistant, and the editor leaves and hands him over to her. So then she meets him and finds out that he's a guy, but she feels a bit betrayed because they've been talking through emails because she does help with the editing process. So she feels betrayed, but we don't get any of the setup beforehand of them talking through these emails. So the payoff isn't really there. And yeah, I also felt like when she did forgive him, it was one of those situations where she shouldn't have been mad in the first place, but then when she did forgive him, there wasn't actually anything that happened to make her forgive him. He didn't do anything to make her forgive him, and she didn't come to the realisation she was mad for no reason. She just randomly forgave him. Next is The Hookup Plan by Farah Rocken, I don't know. This is the third book in a series, and I'm not really interested in the first two. I can get plot lines like this in other books. Like, I am a completionist. If something's part of a series, I want to read the whole series, even if you can read them as standalones, like, which is obviously common with romance. I like to read the whole series and in order. And if I'm not interested in the first two books, I'm not going to read this. Next is Instructions for Dancing by Nicola Yoon. I really enjoyed Nicola Yoon's other two books, Everything, Everything and The Sun Is Also a Star. Read them both as soon as I got them, really enjoyed them, enjoyed both the films. But I've had this for years, like since it came out, I'm pretty much sure, and it came out in 2021, so like 3 years, and I've just not gravitated towards it. I don't think Nicola Yoon is someone that I'm going to reach for loads anymore. Next I have the short second life of Brie Tanner by Stephenie Meyer. This is the novella for the Twilight series. I've read the Twilight series. It was a lot of fun. It was cringy and trashy in all the best ways. I really enjoyed the series. I do not care for Brie Tanner. This came in the set. I couldn't give one. Next is The Last Beginning by Lauren James. This is a sequel to The Next Together. And I read The Next Together quite a few years ago now. Really enjoyed it. I think I bought this like straight after or as soon as it came out. I can't remember whether it was already out when I read The Next Together. But I was really excited about it. I bought it. I've not read it. I do not remember The Next Together. I'd have to read that. And I don't think I would enjoy it as much now as I did then, and I'm happy just sticking with that book on its own. Next I have We Were Liars by Edie Lockhart. This is one I bought because of the hype, because everyone loves it so much, but I couldn't care less. I did try reading this. I got like a chapter in, if that. Nothing felt special about it. Next is Love Like Farms by B.K. Borison, and this is purely because I got the Afterlight special editions and I don't need 2 copies, because if I keep this I'm then going to want to collect all the paperback copies and I don't need them. The Afterlight copies are close enough that I don't feel the need to have the paperbacks, but the Afterlight copies have these beautiful stenciled edges and beautiful hardcovers and beautiful end pages. I just don't need the paperbacks as well. Next is The Midnight Library by Matt Haig. This is another one that I bought for the hype, but it doesn't really intrigue me, and one of my close friends has read this and she was like, unhaul it. She was like, it's not worth it. The premise is interesting, but it's not executed amazingly, and I already wasn't as interested in it anymore, so her saying that just confirmed that I'm not going to read this. Next is Everyone Dies Famous in a Small Town by Bonnie Sue Hitchcock. This is just a book that I picked up because I found the title really intriguing, but the synopsis doesn't pull me in, and again it's YA, so I need to be extra picky. Next is The Cruel Prince by Holly Black. This is purely because I have 2 copies, because I bought one and then I bought the 3-pack from the works, so I don't need 2 copies. Next I have the whole Daughter of Smoke and Bone trilogy by Laini Taylor. I got these from the works for the 3 for £6 deal, and I'm just not really that intrigued in them. They were really popular on BookTube in like the early days of BookTube, and I think that's why I got them, even though it had been a while since I'd heard people talk about them. But I'm not that intrigued, and like fantasy, as much as it's a genre I'm trying to get into more, it's not my go-to genre, so I'm even more not going to pick up the ones that sound vaguely interesting. Fantasy I already struggle to get into, so why would I pick ones that I'm already not that interested in? Next I have The Summoning by Kelly Armstrong. I couldn't tell you how, when I got this. It might have been, I remember in primary school when you left year 6 they did this thing where you could pick a book from Scholastic, and like that would be like your leaving gift, and you were allowed to spend £10. Everyone else was picking individual books. I picked like a box set, and I've got a feeling this might have been part of it, because I remember it had sort of vampire vibes, all the books, because the head teacher asked my mum if she was okay with me picking those books. So it might have been in that, I'm not sure. But in my head this whole time this has been a vampire book. Like if you look at the cover, vampires. Title doesn't scream vampires, but the cover to me screams vampires. It's not about vampires. And it's also, I don't care. Next I have A Very Large Expanse of Sea by Tahara Moffi. This I feel quite bad about because my friend got me this for my birthday like 15, 16, 17, no, maybe it must have been like my 15th or 16th birthday because it's a friend from high school, and I was never super interested in the first place, and I've clung on to it all these years because I felt bad at the idea of getting rid of it, but I'm not going to read it. I need the space and I need my physical TBR to get down. Next I have Charlie, Love and Clichés by Ella Mace. This, I bought a set of Ella Mace's books from the works, and it had 5 books in it and it was probably like £15. I have since read To Love Jason Thorne and I wasn't a massive fan of it. It was okay. So I am going to give her another shot because I've seen a lot of people read The Hardest Fall and To Hate Adam Connor. They're the two that I've heard most, so I am going to give her another shot. Because I have already read one of her books and didn't enjoy it that much, I know I'm not going to want to go back and read every book she's ever written, no matter how much I enjoy the other books. So I'm pretty safe in getting rid of this one. And if after I've read another one by her I don't enjoy that either, I'm just going to get rid of all of her books because I'm not going to go for a third book and not like it. I think after 2, especially one being one of the more popular books by the author, I think if after 2 I don't like it, I can move on. Finally, the last books I have is the Divergent series by Veronica Roth. I've read Divergent and Insurgent, I started Allegiant, couldn't get through it. I'm perfectly happy just having the films. I know the big plot twist in Allegiant. I'm not going to say it just in case anyone's watching this and hasn't read it and wants to, but I know the big plot twist in Allegiant. I did quite enjoy Divergent itself, but I don't want to keep just the one book. I'm happy getting rid of the whole series. I'm happy with just having the films if I ever want to revisit. Hunger Games is better. I have a few more books that I want to add to this unhaul because I filmed this video a couple of weeks ago at this point just because I wanted to be able to pack the books away, put them all on Vinted, start getting them out of the house, and yeah, so I filmed this a couple of weeks ago even though I knew I wasn't going to be uploading it for a couple of weeks, and in that time I have decided on a couple more books I would like to unhaul, so I'll just show you those books now. The first is Will by Will Smith. This is obviously Will Smith's autobiography, and oh, I still have a random piece of paper in here. So I bought this. I went on a kick of buying like every actor that I vaguely know, every comedian that I vaguely know, autobiography, memoir, if they had one, and this was one of those situations. But I'm not, nothing against the man, but I'm not a Will Smith fan. Like, off the top of my head, the only thing I've watched with him in it is Fresh Prince of Bel-Air. Like, I've definitely watched other stuff that he's in, but point being, like, this isn't someone that I actively care about reading the memoirs of. And this was helpful. I did reference it in one of my second year essays at university, but other than that, I don't need this anymore. I'm not going to read it. Next is Kingdom of the Cursed by Kerry Maniscalco. This is another situation of me buying the third? I don't even know where in the series it comes. Not the first book in a series, when I don't even own the first book in the series, because at Waterstone's Boxing Day sales, 50% off hardbacks, this was there. I went, yep, sign me up. I'm pretty sure it's signed or something, like that's why I went for it. Nope, so just bought it because I'd heard of the series. But reading the synopsis of the first book, it does sound interesting, but I can't see myself gravitating towards it anytime soon, and if I'm not going to read the first book anytime soon, I'm not going to read this anytime soon. And finally, They Both Die at the End. This is the Waterstone Special Anniversary Edition. This got published when TikTok reignited the love for They Both Die at the End, and there is like a little passage at the back that is like, thank you to TikTok, because of you, like, this has had this many sales, more than it would have, like, kind of thing. But I don't really care for this cover. I have the American hardback and I actually really like this cover, and I just didn't like this book enough to need 2 copies of it. And like I said, I don't really care for this. I bought this at the time because I didn't own the American hardback and I hated the English cover, and this was slightly better, and at the time I was really excited to read it, but I don't need to own 2 copies. Okay, so I have just filmed an update for a vlog, and once again I have decided to unhaul more books because it's taken me so long from the point of originally filming that video to actually upload it, because I'm waiting for me to have other videos ready as well. So I've decided to unhaul more books. I've got the bug apparently, but yeah, I just thought I would add them on to the end of this video again. First is Cursed Bunny by Bora Chung. I bought this because Katie Colson bought it and was reading it, but then I'm pretty sure most people that read it, because a lot of people in her Patreon bought it as well, I think a lot of people like didn't enjoy this. Apparently there was some really gross short stories in it, and also like it just didn't balance, like the bad ones just didn't balance out the good ones. And it's one of those books that I bought without being super excited for it. Next I have Cousins by Karen M. McManus. I at one point bought every single Karen M. McManus book that came out. I loved One of Us is Lying and then just continued to buy every book by her. This book has never interested me from the day it was, from the first day I ever read the synopsis, the day it was announced, the day I got it, whatever. I didn't want to read this book, but I just was buying every book by Karen M. McManus, so I bought it. I've had no interest to read it ever. A lot of people say this is her worst book as well. Next is Call Me By Your Name. This is just one that I bought because I know it's popular, but realistically I'm not interested enough to read it. I can watch the film. Next I have the School for Good and Evil series, like the original trilogy. I bought this in high school. God. I bought this in high school because one of my best friends, it's one of her favourite series, and she told me I needed to read it, and I never did. I started the first book at one point, didn't finish it. I soft DNF'd it, but realistically I'm not going to read these, and they've started making films, so I can just watch the films if I want to know the story, but I'm just not going to read them. Next we have I Kissed Shara Wheeler by Casey McQuiston. This is a similar situation to Karen M. McManus in that I loved Red, White and Royal Blue, and so pre-ordered this when it came out, and I've got One Last Stop as well. I haven't read anything other than Red, White and Royal Blue. One Last Stop at least intrigues me, this doesn't really. Next I have The Christmas Murder Game by Alexandra Benedict. I just saw this one year and got excited because it's a Christmas murder mystery. I've heard not so great things, got so many other things I can read. And last but not least, this is still undecided, but the Illumicrate edition of The Pairing. I should have skipped this month when I found out this was going to be the book, because I'm not super intrigued by the synopsis. Part of me does want to keep it because I'm like, what if I do like this one? I don't know yet whether it's just Red, White and Royal Blue that was a singular hit for me, or whether I like Casey's writing as a whole. But the plot just really isn't that exciting to me, and yeah, I really just should have skipped this month. So that is it for this unhaul. If you are interested in any of these books, they will all be listed on my Vinted, which I'll link below. Also, there are still some books from the last unhaul I did still listed on there, so go check that out if you fancy. If you enjoyed this video, please leave a like, leave a comment, it does a lot to help the channel, and subscribe if you'd like to see more from me. Bye!